Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Gaswa Outreach Show. It is a delight to have you here, and it's a delight for us to have acquaintance with all of you. I'm again excited to have all of you. Already, I've seen that about 6 people have joined and watching us live, which is quite amazing. That before we start, we have I'll say our regular followers, our loyal fans already joining. Again, my name is Kweku Afram. I am your host. It is a pleasure to again have you. Yes, as we do, we remind people that when you come on, please make it a point to share it wide, share it far. Please make sure that you leave a comment also, because we want to know that you are engaging in the topics that we discussed today. So please leave us a comment and contribute to the discussion. Ask questions and let's get our conversations going. So I'm quite happy to see that a number of people are joining right now. About 5 people are joining already right now, and we're really happy about that. Yes. So today we have an interesting topic, and I've got I would say esteemed members who are going to help us with today's discussions. And so we want to make sure that today we learn something. Before we start, let me please say a few things. Yes, we are the Ghanaian Social Workers Association. We are called GASWA for short. And what we do is that before lockdown, we're going into churches, organizations, institutions to do preventative work. We are about prevention. What we want to do is to be able to educate each other so that we are able to give our children the best opportunities. And when it's about adults, we give them the best of care. So we are a combination of adults and children, social workers, and then we have specialties across the board. So what we're saying is that please, if you need an education, if you need us to discuss things within your Zoom groups, because I know that these days churches are congregating on Zoom, please do well to invite us, and we would try and honor those invitations. So please make sure you invite us. Again, we are the Ghanaian Social Workers Association, and this is what we do. Yes, we are in holiday season. This is the month of August. It's normally a month of holidays. But we are still trying to make sure that we come your way with topics. We are going to be airing on fortnightly basis because of the difficulties of organizing weekly shows. And, we are hoping that every 2 weeks at least, we'll be able to bring you a topic of your interest. Do well, please, to, leave us, topics that you want us to talk about. We are about, your business. Already, Madam Yabachua, who is our organizing lead, events organizing lead, is already joining and watching us. And thank you very much for doing so. Mr. Owusu, Obo Norbert is also watching us, and we thank you very much for watching, and we really appreciate you joining those conversations. So what are we looking today? I mean, today we are bringing social work to the table. There are a lot of misconceptions, there are a lot of myths, there are a lot of opinions about what social workers do, and so today we want to take the time and unveil a lot of things about social work. What is interesting is that we are also social workers, and we are not shying away from this. We know that people have a lot of questions about what we do. So hopefully, by the end of today's discussions, we know what social workers do, how we can be very helpful, and how you can help us do our work. And hopefully, you will have a positive image or a positive impression about social workers. Yes, as I put on the as we put on the flyers, that we are not about ripping families apart. We are not about removing children. Far from it. But these are some of the misconceptions, and that is why we've assembled a number of guests with us today, who is going to be helping us with our conversation. So let me bring them on board now. So we have Mr. Martin Luther King, and then Mr. Dumenya. I'm going to be introducing them very soon, one after the other. Now, let me bring this gentleman on first. Hello, Mr. Martin Luther King. Happy birthday. Today happens to be the birthday of Mr. Asamoah. Please leave him a comment and wish him birthday for us, for sacrificing a special day for us to join this conversation. And yes, Mr. Asamoah is indeed a GASWA member. He's also an executive member. He is our financial secretary, recently appointed. So we are super excited to have you. Hello, sir. Tell us briefly about what you do within social work. Just briefly, and before we go on to today's discussion.
Okay, thank you. So we will be talking about social work in details along the program. But back to your question, I'm a child protection officer. So I work in safeguarding for children and families. That is specifically what I do. I work with children, unborn babies, right all the way to 18-year-olds. Working with the children to improve their lives and to ensure better outcomes for the families and children. So that is what I do.
That is what you do, yes. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. And at this time, let me bring on this man who has been busy all the time within the background when we're doing our shows, putting essays, I call it, long facts. So if you see behind the screen, the person who's been putting a lot of messages behind the screens, this man is actually the person responsible for that. Mr. Dumenya, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. And Mr. Dumenya is our welfare lead. He's also one of the executives of the Ghanaian Social Workers Association, GASWA for short. And Mr. Dumenya, we are so excited to have you. So please tell us briefly what you do.
Yeah, like you said, we are all social workers in GASWA. My background is both children and adult child protection. I do children, adult, and mental health. I've been a social worker for the past 16 years. Practice largely with all service users group. At the moment, I work in a team called emergency duty team. So what we do, we are like a social care 999. If there's an emergency out of hours, we will respond to those emergencies before we hand over to the daytime. So if there is a need for social care intervention out of hours, we will make sure that the intervention is provided within that time and then hand it over to the daytime to follow. So that's what I do now.
That's what you do now.
Yeah.
I see.
So I cover both children, adults, mental health, name it, any aspect of social care. I'm involved.
Wow. This man is a repository of experience and knowledge, because he does a lot of things. So we are very, very happy to have you on board. Yes, please give your comments coming. Please let us know whether you can hear us live and clear. So if you are watching us, please leave us a comment. We are excited to hear from you. We want you to engage in our conversations, and please make sure that you share whatever that we discussing today, because we believe that somebody will benefit from it. I want to welcome Inshiraba Jemima, who is also making sure that she is doing her things. She's going to be joining us very soon, and I don't want to say too much about what Inshiraba is doing, but we are very happy to see you on board. Okay, guys, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Yes, good evening to you too, Jemima Inshiraba. I like that name. Thank you very much for being a loyal fan. Today you've beaten Madame Trudy to it, and I'm hoping that she will join very soon. So please leave us a comment when you come on board. Thank you very much. And as we've been saying today we're looking at the topic of social work intervention. We want to make sure that we cover all the aspects of it. I'm going to be starting by bringing on Mr. Asamoah to start the conversation with us. Mr. Asamoah, without wasting any time, let's go into it. If somebody asks you, what do you do as a social worker, or what does social work entail, what will be your response?
Okay, so thank you for the question. Social work is a broad spectrum profession.
Yeah.
That encompasses many aspects of individual lives.
Okay.
So within the profession, we have specialities.
Yeah.
We have different sectors of social work.
Yeah.
Just like on the program along this evening, we have two social workers who are working in different fields within the profession.
Yeah.
So, to sum it up, social workers support individuals and their families through their difficult times to ensure that vulnerable people, including children and adults, are safeguarded from harm. The social worker's role is to improve the outcomes of people and their lives. Social workers maintain professional relationships and, when necessary, act as guides and advocates for the most vulnerable people in our society. So that is the generic summary of who social workers are.
Okay. Okay. Yamamunya akwaba. Sani yakano no eneno. Yepesi yepensem yepesi yekom ne yehwe edwuma social workers eye. If it's in Pempri, no be one more social workers kra na ne buafu. Social workers kra eba a friend so wabra obamu a ne yedwa. Ede enti na yedwa. Na social workers no edwuma be ne yedi. Enti na ne de yaye adwen say ye ba be pensem mu ye ba be di nkomo kakra. Na ye nya ntiase. If it's ye pese ye kire say enye say social workers omo sorry a na omo say omo pese omo papa ebusuamu na omo tete ebusuamu ntemu ana say ye bagigi nkofom ba onye sa na tie kra ye de ye dwuma pa ne say ye pese ye kan nkofo bom enti say na Mr. Asamoah ekire mu no ye opa che ne say wo ha mu wo tibie mu wo tete wo ha social workers for ba ye beboa so na be ya ahokyere na wo mu no ayi asetena na wo mu na ahokyere no ye be ye mu bibi na kyese a friend say wasetena no asi uyi ye bo no tofa no sa na all patchere na ye pese ye call Mr. Dumanyanso na onto che na adwen kakra. So Mr. Dumanya,
yes,
from your perspective, tell us briefly what you think social work is or social work is about.
Thank you, Goku. As a social work educator myself, I would like to approach. I agree with everything that my brother Martin has said so far.
Yes.
But I want to look at it from a different perspective, which will benefit students also watching, and also those who are thinking about coming to social work. Also, I'll break it down to a layman term what I'm saying. So there is a definition of social work. It's a global definition, international definition of social work. This is what it says. Social work is a practice-based profession. Remember that it's a practice-based profession.
That's it.
An academic discipline that promotes social change and development, social cohesion, and empowerment and liberation of people. And that's the first part of the definition. The second part is the principle of social justice, human rights, collective responsibility, and respect for diversities are central to social work. Underpinned by theories of social work, social science and humanities, and indigenous knowledge, that is important. social work engages people and structures to address life challenges and enhance well-being. Now, that's a very loaded definition with a lot of terminology that needs breaking down.
Exactly.
What does it mean to a layman? It means that this is how I want to describe it. Social work is like a antibody in a human body.
Okay.
This I want us to look at it. You know, in the world today, everywhere in society, the society is rushing on. There are so different sectors of the economy operating. Now, if we are not careful, there are people within the population may not be able to cope with the challenges and pressure of work and having to feed their family and all that. Not everybody can. Now, it is the role of a social worker to prompt the system that, look, you are moving this fast, and these are the people you are leaving behind. So we make sure that nobody is left behind. Everybody's health is addressed. Everybody's social welfare is addressed. Everybody's happy. Okay, so we are like making sure that the society is accountable to every member, irrespective of their challenges, be it mental health, be it physical disability, be it women with difficulties, be it visual impairment, hearing impairment, speech impaired, people who are being forced into marriages that are not acceptable, female genital mutilations, race, migration, asylum seekers, people who are attacked by illnesses like cancer. Sometimes people who are affected by natural disasters. Yes, some families break down, and the people get affected differently. Such people crash down. So we make sure that everybody that I've described so far are cared for. So that is our job. Our job is like we are antibody or change agents. Make sure that nobody is left behind, irrespective of our challenges. So that is also about.
Wow. And some now kind of the also power. It's because I'm a chance here the Mr. Edumenya H say it social work as a 4 year the also be brave. Now the ono into and then say a friend saying example of my and say acquire say and one way mu na ekwayare no sa na social work ai enti no ye kwa adwuma na ye niema na e de o how bebre brain ye ye quantity mu na ye ho kyerɛ eti ye behwe ye ma na ye ho kyerɛ wasetem social workers eboa ema ye de niema no tutu yi enti no se bia obi a wedi dem kakra obi a a friend is saying owo yare bi won so obi a bibi nti ontimi entimi hwe ne maye se be yese bia wo akwantom na bia sika sem bia na wo bibi a friend no recourse to public funds no uni bi social workers betimi abo o sa kwan no so ke se eduma social workers for ye de bebre na de o kan say emu chichemu bebre social workers for eduma boss. And let's get into the discussions. Now, today we captioned our discussions that about misconceptions and myths about social work. That unfortunately, there is a lot of bad media about social workers. You are damned if you do, you are damned if you don't. As a social worker, today we are responsible for a child death. Tomorrow, we are responsible for ripping families apart. There are so many misconceptions and there are so many views about social work. Let's get into some of these things. Let me start with Mr. Samoa. So please, from your perspective, what are some of those misconceptions and myths about social work that make the social work role very, very challenging?
Okay. This is also a very broad topic in the conversation.
Yeah,
but I'll try to minimize it and then be specific. So, for social work as a profession, as with many other professions, it comes with some common misconceptions, myths, misunderstandings within community that we serve. And some of these misconceptions, myths, unfortunately have been, over the period of time, being perpetuated by sometimes the media, especially within the child protection, the area where I practice, where when there is a child death, we all hear how social workers are battered by the media. So what happened then is, so over time, people, the society have unfortunately formed some negative views or misconceptions about social work. But from my own experience, I see social work as a noble profession, as a fulfilling profession, as a vocation. It's a call, because you need, as you are aware, you need to have different, unique set of values and skill set before you be able to practice meaningfully and impactful social work. It's not just a career. It's not just a profession. You need to have a unique set of skills and values, in personal values, in addition to the professional values. Okay. So, what are some of the myths, misconceptions, and the negative views that people express about social work? I'll start from my area of practice, child protection. Many a times, and sometimes within our community as well, when they hear that you are a social worker, and before I go on, because of this, I'm happy to be a social worker. I am proud to be a social worker. But because of some of these negative perceptions about us, immediately I come out from work, I come out from office, I try to remove my ID badge. I don't want to go to the shop for people to, identify me as a social worker. Why? Because people think that social workers who work in the child protection arena, all what we do is to remove children from their families, which is unfortunate. We don't. Social workers do not remove children from their families. In contrast, what social workers do within the child protection practice, what social workers do, contrary to the misconception that social workers are only there to remove children from their families. In contrast, what social workers do is to want to help create safety mechanism for children so that they can stay together with their families and achieve best outcomes. This is what social workers do. However, in extreme situations, as a last result, there are some instances, and this is underpinned by law. So, within the child protection, the legislative framework that social workers use to practice and act upon is the Children's Act 1989. We don't have time to go to the other legislative frameworks, but the Children's Act 1989 is the main legislative framework body that underpins social work practice within the child protection area. So, back to the discussion again. Contrary to the general perception, the myths, misunderstanding by some sectors, sections of the society, that All what social workers do is to remove children from their families.
Yeah.
No. So, social workers are there to impact positively. Where there are concerns in parenting, we provide additional support. We will provide resources. We will act as advocates to do as much as we can. As a last result, if it becomes apparent that despite all the interventions, the support which has been demonstrated over time, that unfortunately the parents cannot effect the necessary changes that are required to meaningfully, safely protect and care for their children. The last result, social worker would then have to go to the court. It will be up to the judge to make the final decision based on social workers' evidence that children should be removed from their parents and placed at the place of safety. So, let me emphasize here also again that removing children from their families should be is a last result. So, before the social worker will go to court and request or ask the judge, ask the court to make that difficult decision for the child to be removed from their parents. The law and as a good practice also advocate that you should explore, as a social worker, you should explore all available options in the family so that the child or children can and should remain within the family.
Okay. I think if I don't stop you there, you go on forever. And thank you, because I can truly tell that you are passionate about what you do. Your passion comes out from your submissions. And yes, it is true that social work is a calling. Not everybody can be a social worker. I want to acknowledge Madame Efua Yeboah for joining. I also want to acknowledge Obrimpong Owusu Entry for also tuning in to the discussion. Our patron, Ama Nanieje, is also watching us. So thank you very much, Ma, for joining. And please keep your comments coming. I can see that people are a bit edgy about making comments. Please feel free. This is a safe platform. We want to answer your questions. And I know you've got a lot of questions. So because today, I think that the comments have been quite slow as compared to previous episodes. And people are a bit, I'll say being careful. So if you have any questions, please feel free and I should say ask them, and we'll try very well to answer your questions. Let me come to Mr. Dumenya. When it comes to the misconceptions and myths about social work, what are some of them from your perspective?
Yeah, again, I'll just build on what Martin has just said.
Yes.
And Martin actually rightly started by highlighting what we do good as social workers before delving into the misconceptions. And I would like to add to what Martin said, that social work, professionally, yes, it's a selfless profession, I must say. And you have to have love and care. You have to be passionate about loving and caring about others to be a social worker. In the sense that on one hand, our main job is to promote and make sure that those who are vulnerable in society have voice. They are not trampled upon. They are living the best they can in society, and they are not put in a disadvantaged position whatsoever. Okay, so to achieve that, we will go into families and assess people's needs and care. Now, sometimes, right, sometimes it will be necessary that we have to protect the vulnerable person from people who are posing risk to that person. And even in doing that, we will negotiate with families about what we are doing. But sometimes it's extremely difficult for us to get past the family. So we will stand as an advocate for the person and make sure that their needs are met. That can come across to families as we being rather oppressive or very interfering in their family life. But the key that I want to highlight is that social workers aim at protecting and making sure that the vulnerable are looked after and they're not in a harm's way of anyone, or they are not being being exposed to unnecessary danger. Okay, so that is what I want to highlight on. So then some of the misconceptions that we face, I'll just go through the list quickly and see. So some people say that social workers take children away from home. That has been covered by Martin. With social workers, we will, as a last resort, we'll write a report to the judge, and the judge then make the decision. All right. As a last resort, our aim is to keep families together. Remember that keep families together is our aim. But children in families, right? They are not party to adult becoming difficult with one another. So if adults become difficult with one another and the children are suffering, our job, those children are the vulnerable ones. Our job is to make sure that they are not suffering. Okay, so that's what Martin is explaining, that we may have to make a report, but as much as possible, we'll keep the families together. I think we'll get to the bottom where what benefits social workers can give to families. But the social workers, they are, well, some people say we are not well paid. Honestly, it is true, but I don't think social workers are less paid job in the UK. Where what I would say is that we work more than how much we are paid, but we are paid enough to get by. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about coming to social work, you will not be poor. You will work for your money. That's what I mean. Yeah. And the third misconception about social work is that there's no career progression in social work. There is a career progression. From a social worker, you can start from a social work assistant to become a social worker, to become a social work manager, head of service, director. Even within the profession, you can become an advanced practitioner, you can become a principal practitioner. All come with money, you know what I mean? So there is a progression. It's a misconception, but there's a career progression there. The social workers interferes with the life of people. That's what people say. The social workers interfere with the life of people. Like I've said earlier, we don't interfere. We only come into contact with people when they need our service. Okay? We don't just go willy-nilly looking for families to interfere. People come to us with issues. And then when we identify that there are vulnerable in those families, we make sure that the vulnerable's voice are heard, they are protected, their well-being are adhered to, their social and health are adhered to. So we don't interfere, but people come to us for support. I think we'll go into it in detail when we come to your home, what we do, so that you understand where we are coming from. All social workers are women. That's one of the concessions. They say it's a women profession. Oh, I'm a social worker. Look at all three of us are male. There are male professions. You see, we need a balance in the profession so that when we are working with families, some men relate with men and women relate with women. So if you are a man, you want to become a social worker, there are roles for you. There's a place for you. Don't shy away from it. All right.
Yes.
It says social workers are left alone to make tough decisions. That's one of the misconceptions. That they are left alone to make tough decisions. That is not true, really. In fact, when you come to social work team, our managers are always on the phone, and they are always on the phone. So if you are not sure, you speak to your manager. If the manager is not sure, they speak to the next person. There's a chain of command, all right? So we are always not left on our own, all right? So you have a support network around you. Yeah. to say what we live feeling. The social workers will live. We have to live by my feeling at home. That's the social workers. If you don't have feelings, you have to live your feelings at home. Every profession, right? You don't need to be personally involved. You need to draw a line between your personal feelings and your professional practice. That's every profession. We are regulated profession. So I think what they mean is that we are very professional in our practice. Yes, we are, because we don't mix business with pleasure, but we are also human beings. Okay? We have feelings and we feel sad about situations, and sometimes those things help us to manage the case better, because we will put ourselves in a situation. If this is my grandmother who is having this dementia, this is the best care I want for this grandmother. So I'll give that to whoever is my service user. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We bring that to the work. Yeah. And then I will stop at the last one. The social workers is just a job. It's just a job. You know, they just do it as a job. Well, I don't know. Sometimes what they mean by is just a job. From what I understand, it is that social workers are passionate about social justice, discrimination, and making differences in the life of vulnerable. And that's what we are passionate about. Social workers can have a big impact on life of people and building relationships with young people. You see, that's what we do. You see, so it's not just a job. It is this is the core of what we do. All right. Yes, and then there are instances where people who have received our services can attest to the fact that because of our services, they have become A, B, C, and D. People have been through the care system. If not because we have intervened, their life would have been miserable. So it is not just a job. We make difference in the life of people.
Yes.
Caring job is a selfless job. It's a job that you need to bring your heart to it. Yeah. And it's a well-paid job. We are not poor. Social workers are not poor.
You've already said that, and thank you very much for that. And you've said a lot. And you know, in some that Mr. Dominic Canada also say, never be one of my and go for can you know correct. Social workers for here, sir. Almost say Jumana ye no, Ufshe Jumana ye kuya ho ye no, and ye one ketua. Because a nurse for any doctors, any a teacher for me, Bekasa. Most of the professions because Juma Umuko Moya and ye one ketua ne demo. I don't just say. Yes, yeah, okay. So, Baba, joining Abra. Ne, okay. Na, Obeka and say, and your bad cry. What you can send me, just say, and go for your margin say, you know, Yakuma. If you want my buy, you may know more, Yakuma, and Yano credit. Obien one more, obey me at Tanaka before be back. Na, and Canada. And you obien no better no so pipa, yes, no. And I say, Ebia, brofo on tinti, and I say, baby of free tea, and I say, baby, yes, Bonibeka discrimination. Social work and Baby who are Obabun and Yuguso. And yes, and yes, I am Mangua. Another a member, and I say, she said, Mammy and Sankin Tinka, and then Yabeshia. No, do baby an ear or Bema Abemuane, and Nadia, and Mammy and Sapa. And you have a shit, no, and yes, a friend, some no cry, a friend say, my mystery, ampa, and mema umpa. And a friend say, my milky as so she, on also say watching from work, okay, that's it. And my milky and so you'll be at me, sure, say a human, the Nijan Hopa, per se, on so baby. And to know, and some day, and some baby one of my boss. Just say a friend saying, Emfa Quamu, and you know, Efa Yeduman. About John, before we move on to the next bit, in terms of adults, what are some of the misconceptions there that becomes a barrier for people accessing services in terms of adult social work?
Like I said before, right? Even adults, children, when social workers get involved, we are getting involved with the family. Whether adults or children. So the misconception cut across both adults and children. Let me take one of them that I've just gone over and then apply it to adult services. If, for example, an adult, an elderly man suffering from a dementia, who live independently all their life, all his life, and wants to live independently at home and receive care at home. Sometimes, some families, because of the change of the adults, the older person's current situation, let's say they have dementia, they cannot even recognize the family members. Sometimes, their personal care and hygiene become very challenging to manage by the family. All right. And there's so many things happen that the family will say that, oh, they don't want this elderly person to live at home anymore. They want the person in care. They want the person to be taken to a care home. All right. Social worker social worker gets involved, right? Remember, our job is to protect the vulnerable, right?
Yes.
And make sure that their self-determination is enhanced, promote their well-being, all right?
Yes.
So social worker will come making sure that the voice of that elderly man is heard. So if the elderly man is saying that I want to remain at home, I like my independence, I want to be in my own house and receive care, I'll take that. I'll take that seriously. All right.
Yeah.
Even if the person lack capacity to make that decision, at least I know his wishes and feelings. So when I'm making a best interest decision for that person, I'll take that into consideration. So sometimes the family will say we are interfering about with their family arrangement. They want their loved one to be a care home, but the mom wants to stay at home. So what we will do is we will arrange care workers to be providing care to this person at home to give the family a break. So we are keeping the family together. So the family may come on board. So because they were left on their own devices providing the care, that is why they have the view of taking the person to a care home. Yes. But when we come in, we give them alternative, we give them options so that they don't know that they have options. Then okay, sometimes they cool down and then the care comes in, and then that man continues to live at home till the rest of their life, and they feel better. And so we are not interfering. We come in and they keep the family together and make everybody happy.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Mr. Foster is agreeing with that comment that that he agrees that with the things that you've said, and he says keep on educating us. Thank you very much for that comment. We want to get into why social workers get involved with families, and I'm going to start with Mr. Samoa on this.
Okay. Thank you very much once again. So we've spoken a lot about the career, about social work as a profession. So we work with people. We have different range and variety, diversity of clients or family that we work with. Yeah. So the question as to why social workers become involved or get involved with families until we are nosy, aren't we? That's why we don't have anything to do. That we just go and interfere with people's lives. Is that what we do? I don't think so.
No.
Yes. Okay. So as to why social workers get involved with families would depend on the nature of the client base and the nature of the circumstances. Okay, so I'll start with children social care practice, and I'm sure John will also talk about the adult sector. So with the children's services, there are many reasons and factors why social workers become involved with families. Some families actually initiate the contact to ask and request for support. This is what people do not understand. So depending on individual circumstances, that is also determine your involvement with social workers. So, few examples here. Within the children's social care practice, we receive our referrals from multiple places and areas. For example, GP practice. Okay. Let me also please emphasize that this does not mean that after today's program, you will stop having contact with professionals that you think may make referral to social services. Please, that is not the point here. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, for example, you go to the GP and then you present a child or yourself to the GP, and the GP become extremely worried and concerned. That GP or the nurse, health visitor, school, teacher, and even individual members in the community. Okay. So
Yes.
professional referrals. Let me finish that one then before I go to the community. So professional referrals from GP, health visitor, nursery teachers. Okay. The child will go to school or nursery with different presentation because every teacher or class teacher knows their children very well. So if one day, maybe for some time, the child will go to school presenting differently, that teacher will have duty to act to protect that child. So children safeguarding is responsibility of everyone. Okay. So if anybody within the community, any member of community, any member of public has any concern, including your neighbor, have duty to contact social services. Okay. Or contact the police to protect that child. So why do we get involved? Sometimes in terms of need. If you need services, if you are vulnerable, housing, if you have children and you have become homeless, if you have asylum issues, immigration issues, and you have no support, no recourse to public fund, okay, some of these individuals approach social services, and then assessment to be completed to determine if you you can access services. Okay. So referrals can come from school, hospital. If you go to hospital, you present your child to hospital with injury.
Yes.
Every child who go to hospital with injury, there is a safeguarding policy within every hospital that if a child is presented to a hospital at a hospital with an injury, the safeguarding nurse at that hospital will be notified immediately.
Yes.
That safeguarding officer or nurse or doctor at the hospital will automatically make referral to children's social care for further investigation.
Yes.
Why? Because this will ensure that no child will go unprotected.
Yes.
Will go under the radar. Okay, I'm trying to explain it in a basic terms, if that is all right. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then another area, and specifically because of our target audience for this program, our community. Okay.
Yes.
So, if as a mom, you sometimes go to school, you are doing your school run, and then the teacher then noticed that you have sustained injury. When you are Monday morning, and then the teacher will then be asked, sometimes the teachers will ask you in a discreet way, okay? If the teacher is not convinced, okay, because there are children involved with the involved, the teacher will automatically. And let me please emphasize this. This is not the teacher trying to interfere in your children's life or your family life. It is their safeguarding responsibility.
Mr. Sama, we ba church and one kakra, ni encha se ochi kakra. Yencha se ochi kakra, yencha se ochi kakra. The same Mr. Sama can say me brain na. I say or kasa ya na me best me stop you because I say on the floor. Uchicha ni 19 kakra na here na the oka no kra na no refi. Na sama obo so no ya sama ehun hia pa. The oka no say child protection is everyone's responsibility. Enti no say ukopie e hospital. Na anya bia no me fan say wo suffer from depression. Ana bibi kekere na how wo mma. E che say a doctor no or future services amane say mama we or ma na dwen mu no aka kakra mummoa no enye se pe no pe wasem na opese e beje umma debi eye moa de sisi a na o kira ase ne se e bia wo akọ school wo de oba akọ school teacher yi wo de oba du school mo na teacher na hu se wani asoa just ya bo blows pa ma wani asoa no wabusa ase na adenti na wani asoa e bia o se me de me ti copy baby o hwe se na wani asoa ye otimu se no ade we de eye bro na ya bro meanwhile no so woni nkwala na tie na nsusuaso a ebro ewo nkwala so no that one of these days no ye ba be physical abuse any the impact ewo nkwala so ni ya ti ase yi na o bibi sa na ono na said it is his responsibility or her responsibility to make sure so be alert social services abo mama ne say the pika kra nko yi na mama no oba ode akwala ne ba ye na em say ye bro no na se nkwala no so hwe bro na ebedi omo dem enti no munkoko ye hu bibi. Mr. Sama, please conclude your submission.
Okay, so as Mr. Afram has explained it in the local dialect, okay, so the purpose of that professional, whether it's in the hospital setting, whether it is in the GP setting, whether it's a midwife, whether it's in the nursery, whether it's in the children's playground, children's center, even a neighbor, okay, the reason behind that is that children need to be protected. So that individual, that professional is acting based on his or her professional responsibility. Okay. Then the purpose and the reason and the opinion that is of the social services who have duty to safeguard, support children is to come in to investigate further, ask questions. What is going on? Are the children under your care within the house safe? Are they protected? If not, then the question is, what can be done to protect these vulnerable children? That is, assessment to be done, completed, depending on the nature of the situation. Okay? That will be another topic. I don't want to enter into the practice issues. Okay. Then services will be provided at appropriate level where necessary.
May that say. Thank you very much. And I want to bring Mr. Dumenya into this.
Yeah. That's a very comprehensive source of referral to social services, as someone has commented. What I would like, I would like to approach it differently, slightly differently, but it's still coming to the same conclusion. In law, social workers, we have our professional values, and then we practice in line with legislation. Remember, we are responsible for social change. Social workers, our job is to make sure that all the vulnerable are protected. They're not left behind. They are not oppressed. They're not discriminated against. That's our job. All right. So the law, so because of our existence, the government has laws in place to make sure that nobody is left behind. All right. Now, it is our job, social workers, to make sure that the laws that make sure that nobody is left behind are implemented to the latter, to make sure that nobody is left behind. Are you following?
Yes.
So one of the such laws is what my brother has mentioned, Children's Act. That is one of them. Okay, Children's Act 1989. That places a duty on local authority to assess any child or family, any family needing social care service. Okay, they're needing our service. So the local authority has a duty to assess, and then if there is a need to protect, we have a duty also to protect. All right.
Okay.
So we balance promoting the family's autonomy with what? Protection. So that's always our professional judgment. We balance it, self-determination with protection. All the time we do that. In our practice, we do that. So that's Children's Act. Now, when it comes to adults, we have the Care Act. Also, before the Care Act, there have been many legislations. So one thing that social workers know a lot about laws, different kind of laws, because we have the law on our side and we use the law to make sure that our service users get the best outcome and make sure that they are not left behind. So that's what we do, social workers. So we use the law to make sure they get it. So the Care Act is one of the laws that we use in adult services to make sure that one, adults are not abused, they are protected, their care needs are met, their health and safety are ensured, and their family network are there to support. Social network are there to support. Their health and their health needs are met. That is what we do. All come under the Care Act. Now there's another legislation called the Mental Capacity Act. Now, at old age, they lose the ability to make decisions for themselves. All right. So the person become a changed person. They can't make decisions anymore. And there's a piece of legislation also that allows social workers and professionals to make sure that we make decisions in the best interest of that particular individual. Okay. So we use that legislation to make sure that that person is not left behind. That's the key. Yeah. His health and safety are ensured, his social life are guaranteed, and is living a well balanced life, and is protected from any harm from any person. Okay. Then there is another legislation called the Mental Health Act. Also, it's about this one is about, again, all adults. All right. And children, for that matter. Yeah. Who lost mental ability, or who have a mental health issues, and they need to be
or crisis.
They need to be protected so that they are not left behind. Okay. So sometimes we make decisions under the Mental Health Act. So there will be instances where a social worker who is trained to become an approved mental health professional, like myself, will come to a home or somebody's home to do an assessment, and then move the person from their home to a psychiatric hospital against their will. Okay. Even in the process of doing that, we make sure that we negotiate with the person to get them admitted first. Remember, our work is always to make sure that we are less restrictive and promote people's autonomy and independence. At times, people don't have the ability to make that decision themselves. We make it for them.
Yeah.
And to protect them from harm that they may cause to other people or they may cause to themselves. So we have to make that decision for them. And there's a legislation we do that. Mental capacity is one of them. Mental Health Act is one of them. All right. So we do it. So why social workers get involved with families is because of all this. The local authority has a duty to assess any citizens in their local area who has a social care needs, and they come to our attention. We have a duty to assess, and then the local authority has a responsibility to meet assessed needs. Now, if a local authority has a duty to assess somebody, it means the population, the people living in the local authority, has the right to demand an assessment. Okay, so families can call and say that, look, my son is not mentally well, he's becoming difficult to manage, he's presenting so he wants to kill himself or he wants to kill somebody. I need you now to come and assess this person. And we've got the duty to respond to that particular individual.
Yes.
All right. So he has a right to request for assessment. We have a duty to make sure that we provide assessment, all right? And then the outcome, we follow from there. So that's one of the reasons we get involved. And also, unlike children's services where families, when you're dealing with children, families are always very protective of the children. So they think that we are coming to remove their children. But in adult services, families are always calling for social care, because when we come, we make the family happy.
Yes.
So if the person is lacking money or accommodation, or their health needs are not being met, or think about health and social life, all aspects of your health needs, all aspects of your social care needs, and your well-being. If something is not right, your neighbor, your family, your GP, all the professionals that Martin has mentioned, any of them can make a request for social care to get involved. And what they are saying is that there is this individual in your area as a local social authority who is presenting with a need for social care. Therefore, they are requesting for an assessment, and we have a duty to respond and a responsibility to meet those needs. So that's why we get involved, to meet needs and keep families together.
That is a very extensive explanation, gentlemen. You've been wonderful, and thank you very much. And I agree with Madame Latifa Jones, who's saying that well done for the explanations, because that is indeed taking us back to school. Some of us, we graduated like in the 13th century, so we've lost some of our those knowledge. So thank you very much for those explanations. Let's move on with the discussion. Now, it is common practice that people think that, hey, if you are not defensive, if you are not aggressive, if you do not stand your ground, these people would take you for a ride. You have to speak up. You have to face them squarely. We've had instances where we heard about a family who the parent says that, you would have to take my dead body, before you can intervene, or you need to put me in prison before you can intervene. We've had so many stories. So I'm going to kill myself if you get involved. How should anyone, God forbid, because what we said is that, look, social workers are there to help families. So if somebody knocks on your door, I mean, in the situation of children, because John actually said that most of the time when it's adults, it's the families who are asking for help. So it is quite different. But in the case of children, how should we respond? How should one respond when social workers, approaches you and tell you that we've received a referral from school, that perhaps maybe your son is reporting that you've beaten them, you've used a belt on them, or you've done something to them, or mom and dad are fighting and mom is hurt. How should you respond when a social worker approaches you?
Okay. Before I tackle that question, can I make a few comments about some observations I've made in the course of the discussion? Okay. Obviously, we are duty bound to make sure that the energy, the time, everything that we do, our target audience understand what we're doing and they are impacted. Okay, so and I'm happy that Mr. Frank translated everything into the local language. But at the same time, we're using some jargons, professional jargons, continuously that I need to draw our own attention to it. So we've been mentioning, especially John, about local authority. Okay. So what that local authority means is that is the council, the town where, so every council, every assembly, but if you take us back to Ghana, we will call it a district assembly. Is that correct?
Yeah, sort of.
Yes, district assembly. So here we call it local authority. Okay. So each local authority
or the assembly, they have some of these services, social care services, have been decentralized from the central government to the local government level. Okay, so that is what we're trying to explain. That is the responsibility of each local authority to protect, safeguard individuals within the local authority.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just a summary of that. So back to the question. Okay.
Yes.
How should families respond when social workers get involved? This is very, very important issue that we need to tackle it once and for all, especially within the Black community, Ghanaian community. Okay. There are a lot of stories that we hear that sometimes you don't know whether you should laugh, you don't know whether you should scream, okay, about people's responses when social workers become involved, okay. I've had instances where someone, okay, not in my house, you never come into my house, okay. You're not going to remove my child. Okay? Then you better kill me.
Yes.
These are real stories.
Yeah.
These are, I'm not making this up. These are real stories. But the consequences, the danger is that social workers do not just go to people's houses for nothing. Social workers become involved with families for a reason, as we have already explained. So, there are some basic fundamental principles that underpin social work, regardless whether it is within the adult social care or children's social care. And I'm glad that John explained about the threshold criteria, okay, whereby families, adults, sometimes they will have to be removed and cared for at care homes, or if it is mental health issues, okay. I don't want to dwell much on the adult side because that is not my area of practice, okay. So, for example, deprivation of liberty within the adult sector, okay. I want to link it to the children's social care practice, okay. So, when it comes to a point where social worker has to act within the law to deprive an individual from his or her liberty, to protect and safeguard that individual, number one, and also to protect and safeguard individual members of society. Okay? So you have to make ethical decision to protect these vulnerable individuals. Let me take you back to the children's practice, children's sector of social work practice. Okay? Some of our people, because culturally, our understanding of state interference, the role of state in individual lives is different from the community that we've come from. So our understanding of how things are done here, especially in regards to the relations between the government, the state, and individual lives, is different. But what I want to take this opportunity to always emphasize is that if you go to the Rome, do what? Do what the Romans do. As long as you are raising your child, your children here, you have to stick and adhere to the laws that underpins raising children in the society, in the community that you find yourself in.
Okay. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. I think Madame Trudy has joined the conversation, and she's joined a little bit late, so she wasn't here when we addressed all the misconceptions. So she's posed a few questions that I would want you gentlemen to quickly address. The first one is saying she told her brother, "You've had it when social workers get involved. You are doomed," kind of. And then she's saying that sometimes we get in because of money to some degree. And she says there are a lot of stories to back what she's saying because because she's just recently joined in and she didn't join from the start, and she's one of our true loyal fans. Can you please quickly address that for her before we move on? So any of you gentlemen can take that question about her warning her brother that when social workers get involved, you've had it.
I think that's one of the misconceptions we've addressed earlier, isn't it?
Yes.
What we want our listeners to take home,
yes,
is that these misconceptions are not accurate. What is true is that when social worker comes to your home, our aim is to support the family, the family unit to stay together. That's that's our main aim. And the second is that in doing that, we make sure that everybody is safe within the family, especially the person who is most vulnerable in the family. So children, make sure that all children are safe, well-being. And then if it's an adult, make sure that adult or older person with dementia or with mental health or with vision impairment or with hearing impairment or with speech impairment or with has been diagnosed with cancer, HIV, that person is not left in a harm's way. All right. So sometimes, as I explained earlier, social worker, we always all the time has to balance protecting, has to balance promoting families, making families together with what? Protecting any vulnerable person we've identified within the family. So we always have to balance. So we balance, our aim is to promote, to protect, to challenge any oppression, any discrimination. All right. If need be, if that family is posing a risk to this child, then we have to protect the child from the family. Even in doing that, we would like to work with the family that, look, this is what we think is happening. This child is at risk. We need to protect this child. So how are we going to go about it so that you can maintain your family? Sometimes we don't agree with the family what they want to do. But we need to protect this child. When we leave that child in that family, harm will come. When we leave that adult within this family, this adult's needs will be neglected, and this adult will die or something will happen to this adult. So we take a decision to protect. Okay. So people focus on that more than what we actually do to keep the family together.
Exactly.
So balance. So the matter the profession is regulated, we work within the law, and it's balanced. So we don't remove children. We are blessing to families.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. What we'll do is that with the as you saw on the flyer, this was a part one. Yeah. That was definitely a part one, and as I said before, that we will try and come up with the part two. So let's move on quickly. We've got, I think after this one, we've got one more section to look at, and we want to finish on time today because today is particularly Mr. Samoa's birthday, and I know that he wants to go and celebrate the day with his family. So thank you, Mr. Samoa, again for sacrificing your time on your birthday. And guys, we said that we should wish Mr. Samoa birthday. I've not seen one person wish him happy birthday. Please, let's appreciate him. Let him feel special, please. Mr. Martin Luther King, let him feel special. Show him some love. All right, so let's move on briefly onto this. Mr. Dumenya, if you can just add to what Mr. Samoa said in terms of how we respond when social workers knock on our doors.
Yeah, I think I really have to highlight also that as Samoa has mentioned a lot of them. So I just want to approach it differently so that we can get a different perspective of it as well.
Yes, please.
Now, how should family respond when social workers get involved? Now, one of the ways social workers we work, I think the most our core practice as a social worker is what we call enablement. Enablement means that when we come to your door, our aim is to explain to you why we are there. If you don't understand, we will educate you until you understand why we are there. Okay? Now, so when we come, we'll tell you that this is the concern. Let's say I've received a referral to come and do a mental health act assessment on your 18 or 19-year-old son who is currently presenting with some form of depression. You know, he stopped going to school. Maybe he's in uni. He stopped going to uni. He's lonely at home, refusing to come out, not washing. And that is out of character for this particular person. And I have been called out to respond to this young man. Okay. I will explain to you, this is why I'm here. Now, it's a mental health act assessment I'm coming to do because the young man has refused any intervention, and the only way to get the support to this young man is to make decisions for him. So I'll say, this is what the law says. This is why I'm there, and this is the young man who needs the service, and I'm there because of him. And he's an adult. I'm going to be treating him as an adult. Okay, you are the family. You love him, and then you want the best for him. And this is the law. This is the law within which we are operating. We don't make the law. The law is made by the government. Okay. Yes. We are only implementing. So we educate the family. Okay. Yeah. Now, how should the family respond? The family, we all have a duty to abide by the laws of the land. Social workers, we practice within the law. So it is. So for our listeners, I have to highlight this because some of the cases that we have to take to court for child protection and all that shouldn't have been to court if our people just understand.
Repeat that.
We just understand that we are not there on our own accord, and there are laws of the land that need to be adhered to. Okay, simple as that. Many people who are in beautiful jobs have to go through ladder process because of their I don't know, that our attitude back at home, lawlessness attitude.
And please explain what Lado is.
Yeah, Lado, when you are working with vulnerable adults
or children,
or children, and there is a safeguarding case or a child protection case or any case that has come within your family, and you are implicated in it. Okay, you are implicated. Let's say a child says, "Oh, you have shaved hair sakura as a punishment." That's one of the because it's done easily in Ghana, so you think you can do that here? You know what I mean? So the child, you have shaved the whole hair, especially a girl's head, sakura, as a form of punishment. And I've come to your home to say that this is what you have done to this child. These are the implications, and these are the law. And then you say that I'm not going to let you. This is my child. I can do whatever I want to do. You can't do whatever you want to do in this country. No. So that's what I mean. So you go through a process whereby your employer has to let you leave work for them to carry out investigation about your conduct and your lawlessness attitude. That's what we call LADO. Right? So yeah, so that's what we mean. So you don't want to go through all that. So the point is coming back to how should family respond?
Yes.
Simply know that we are there to help, and we are not coming there to interfere with your life. We are sent there. We are working in the shadow of the law of the land. Okay. Now, bear in mind though that you are within your right. I need to explain to you. You have a right as a family under the human rights legislation of a right to family life and privacy. Okay. So when we come to you, you can arguably say that we are infringing on your right of privacy or your right of family. You can say that, all right? And we will then go, all right, but we will come back with a different piece of legislation that allow us to get in. And this time when we get in, it's going to be like, okay, for example, sometimes if I'm using the same example, and this 19-year-old who is refusing intervention. Now, you can say, I'm not coming out. I'm not letting you see me, all right? We don't have any, we will respect his right of family life, but we also balance that with what? Protecting him and other people in that household, all right? So we will just go to court and get a warrant. The warrant then now give us permission to enter into your home forcefully and then remove that person from the home, take it to a place of safety. We can carry out an assessment and decide how best we can meet the person's need. At that point in time, our ethos will be that the person lack capacity to make decisions to protect himself or to protect other people from harm. You know what I mean? So we do that in the person's best interest. But again, doing all that, we make sure that we protect the person, we respect the person. All right. Every information that we get about a person is kept confidential. And all these are being explained to the families by the social worker. We do explain this to families. So we don't just come and then take your information. We explain that we will respect your information, and this is how we are going to do. And the outcome, we tell you everything. So how you should respond is listen to us and then obey the laws of the land. Remember, you also have rights, and we will respect your rights as well.
Okay. Yes. Someone there, I think that he's changed devices, so he looks a little bit different there. Okay, now let's try and wrap up. And we thank you for your Mr. Samoa. There's a bit of noise in your. If you've got two devices on, can you please turn one off? Yes, thank you very much. Let's wrap up. Let's look at the last section of what are the positive stories there? What are the benefits of social interventions? I believe that there are some negative stories there. We can't deny that. We are not shying away from the fact that mistakes do happen, and some people make bad decisions. We are not shying away from that. That happens in every profession. They are bad doctors, they are bad teachers, and sometimes you come across some social workers who may not be exactly, I would say, quite professional or quite okay. But let's spend a bit of time as we wrap up to highlight some of the benefits of social work intervention. And I'll start with Mr. Asamoah as I try to unmute you to see whether the sound is better. From your sound.
Is it better?
I think so now. I think it's better.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So there are many benefits that we can talk about in terms of social care interventions on individual lives and families. As we've already highlighted, social work is about working at
Okay, you frozen there.
Outcomes for children and their families. Okay, so there are a lot of positives outcomes that we don't hear, and there is a reason for this. Social workers work for or with the most marginalized or some of the most marginalized and vulnerable people in society. Okay, so it is part of our ethical values that whatever we do, we have to respect the client right to privacy. So social work is social work practice is
highly connected to the European Convention of Human Rights, especially the Article 8 of the European Convention of Human Rights. Okay,
which says that.
Hey, you're gonna put me on a spot now.
Yes.
Right, family life. Yeah, right, privacy and family life. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So we always seek to promote and act to always protect and preserve, respect individuals' right to privacy. Okay, that is why a lot of the good work that we do in the community are not highlighted. That is one of the fundamental principles and values within the profession. Okay, so there are a lot of benefits. Okay, housing. We have individuals who are at risk of homelessness, being evicted. We have individuals who have no access to recourse. They have no recourse to public fund. Okay, asylum issues. We have mental parents who are experiencing mental health issues. Okay, so we step in all this to proact quickly to assess, advocate, guide, and support some of these families, parents, to assess the necessary support in order that they will also have the capacity, be emotionally, physically available to care for their children. That is what we do. In a nutshell, social workers can be a force for good. And they are social workers. We are force for good. We are not evil professionals, evil individuals as people perceive us to be. Let me give you one example. Okay.
Somebody, before you go on, somebody truly just said, you guys intrude a lot. You know, there's no privacy when you get involved. I mean, it is a very intrusive profession. You get to know everything about the family. You talk to extended family. You talk to everybody. Sometimes you even talk to neighbors about them. So, she's questioning the privacy bit that you mentioned.
Okay, so Trudy, okay, it is all acting in the best interest of the vulnerable people that we are working for or working with. So, for example, if you don't ask questions, so the purpose and the essence of assessment is to explore, constantly asking intuitive questions, okay? Professional, if you have any kind of professional doubt, you need to explore, okay? You need to ask probing questions so that you as a professional, you can make informed decisions that seek and is in the best interest of a child. Remember, if you have to remove a child from that family and place that child for adoption, you are interfering in that individual's life for generations to come.
Yes.
You remember when you hear stories of adopted children who are now adults, when they narrate their stories, okay? So why do we do that? You go to family homes and then you open doors. Why do you start to open doors? You open fridges, you go to kitchen, you go to the children's bedrooms, you ask questions. This is why you get to know what is going on there. Sometimes the stories some of these children tell you, okay, extremely concerning. So you need to assess the children. You need to talk and speak to the relevant people in order for you as a practitioner, as assessor, to make informed,
decision,
sound judgment, so that decision that you make for that child will be in the child's best interest.
We've run out of time, so I'm going to give Mr. Dumenya the opportunity to say his final words as he highlights on some of the benefits of social care intervention.
Okay, so I think I'll not repeat. I just want to quickly tackle through this query.
Yes.
It is not legal for anyone to speak to any neighbor without the permission of the person whose information we are gathering. It's not legal. So if somebody has done that, that's not the way we practice. Usually, maybe if we are very, very concerned about somebody's safety, yes, we will speak to your neighbors and see whether they've seen you around or they've seen the child around. But until we make contact with yourself, all right? So when we make contact, because we practice within the law. So there's a law called General Data Protection Regulation, which is GDPR in short. We don't share any information with anyone without permission, without your permission. All right. So there are instances where you might not agree with us to maybe speak to your child.
Yes.
We might override that because you see, we always balance protection and autonomy. So we are giving you autonomy to make decision about this child. Yes. You have the autonomy. This is your child. You make the decision about your child. You have the parental responsibility. But when we are looking at protecting this child, we need to balance. The balance tips slightly to make sure that that child's voice is heard. So if you don't want to speak to that child, the only way we can speak to the child is to make sure that we speak to the child. We get a voice. So we take the case into something called Section 47. That is Section 47, trump your right. Then we can speak to the child without you giving us permission. So there are ways, but that's why it is important that you work with us. Now, that's to answer your question. So we don't intrude. We are there to help. Now, I want to go quickly through the list of things that social workers can help you with. And this is important.
Before you do that, Mr. Dumenya, quickly, she asked the question about fridge. Fridge has got to do more with neglect.
Neglect, yeah.
You do have parents, Trudy, who are on drugs, who are, who are on, abusing alcohol, and they forget to even buy food for their children. We have Kara Isha in Birmingham, who starved to death. She starved to death. There are some parents who will lock food away as punishment. So sometimes when we come and we want to check the fridge and we see that the food is molded, then we know that you are not. I mean, because yes, some parents are given support, universal credit or child benefits and the rest of it to feed their children. But because they are addicted to drugs, they rather spend the money on drugs. So when a social worker is checking the cupboards, they want to check whether there's food for the children. So there are reasons why we do certain things. So I think we need to explain that for you to know. So anyway, because we've run out of time, just go through
my list quickly. So the biggest support that you can get from a social worker when we come to your home, is when a family you've got to deal with so many professionals, it can be very daunting work. So the social worker is like your body. So the social worker comes with information already he or she has got from other professionals. So you are just one person, not many. So you can be going to the police, you can be going to doctors, you can be going to immigration, you can be going to speech and language therapists and all that. But the social worker will organize, coordinate all that. So anytime you have a query, you talk to your social worker. The social worker will organize it for you. You know what I mean? So you have a body. So we call it a care manager. We manage your care, the care that person needs. The family's care. We manage it. Right? Coordinate other professionals. You take a pressure away from you. Okay. So some of you families have challenging children that you are managing on your own. When a social worker comes in, the social worker will arrange for specialist services for your child, give you a break. You are not all the time having to care for this challenging child. You are getting the support. You are getting all the support. Some people care for your child once you go somewhere to do whatever you need to do to look after your own well-being. Social workers, we organize that. All right. Some families they become homeless. They don't have money. Social workers will organize all that for you. Make sure that the child you are looking for. Remember, our focus is on that child. And remember, our definition is that nobody is going to be left behind. So that child or you who are struggling, you shouldn't be left behind. So our support is coming to you so that you're not left behind. All right. Now, there are some things you need to know about social workers when we come to your home. All right. We are very active listeners. Sometimes you just need somebody to talk to. The social worker is there to listen to you. All right. We have a great organizational skills. We organize ourselves very well so that we don't come. We come with information. We have a lot of information about services that are available in your area that you can engage in. We'll give you that information. All right. And sometimes we organize it all for you. Okay.
Yes.
We are critical thinkers. So you come to us. Somebody says that, oh, they heard you are beating your child, blah, 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 or they hear the child crying all the time. And then we don't just jump to come and make the decisions. We take information, analyze it, and make sure that this child that is crying, is it being beaten or something's happening? So we are critical thinkers. You can count on us that we are not going to make decisions based on somebody's malicious call. You know what I mean? And then we are tolerant. In fact, all social can tell we are tolerant. Amount of abuse that we can accommodate. We are very, very, very professional in our practice. There's nothing you say to us that will make us angry. Our focus is on that child or that vulnerable adult, vulnerable person. Whatever we say, it will pass our ear here and go that way. But our focus remain on making sure that that vulnerable person is not left behind, is not trampled upon, is not oppressed. Yeah.
Okay, Mamika Bibin Chemukakra. If you go to every profession, if you go to the GP and you're abusive, they'll throw you out. If you go to a school and you're abusive, they will throw you out. I'm not saying that this is an excuse for you to be abusive at all social workers. No, at all. We don't come into the profession to be abused. But upon say, no, I try so wow. Who did not can some and so no one it takes something special for a social worker to be able to absorb all these things and still help you. Cancel or say so the same social worker is fighting on your behalf. So that is the point that John is making. But John Patrick was in terms of
other tolerance we look at is if you are from whatever background you come from, ethnic minority background.
Yes.
We don't look at that. We look at your needs.
Yes.
And then we look at your needs that you are lacking. Even if you are from a Muslim background, we will make sure that you get the service that you need as a Muslim. You know what I mean? Yes. We don't decide that you are in English, you should get no. We make sure that we respond to you. That's what I mean by tolerance. Yeah. Yes, we are socioeconomic ethnic communities. We work with anyone, race, whatever background you come from. Diversity. We work with you, so we work tolerant. Yeah. But we are boundaried. No, our boundaries are. We don't mix business with pleasure. You should know that. Know that whatever.
Those who mix business with pleasure, they would arrange them before Social Work England, and they will be struck off. Social worker forms, I'll say personal relationships and sexual relationships with clients. They are going to be disbanded. Yes.
So we are very empathetic. Yeah, we put ourselves in your situation, and then we work with you to come out of that situation. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then, so remember, our aim is that you are not left behind, or whoever is vulnerable we have identified is not left behind.
Yes.
There are other benefits, especially in adult care.
In 1 minute.
That we can get. So dealing with numerous carers. There are carers who need help. Yeah, we provide carers allowance, give you carers break. Some people we can prevent forced marriages. Forced marriages of children. We deal with all that. So we integrate people into, especially people who have migrated from different countries. We make sure that they're comfortable. We integrate them into this community so that their care needs are met. Families going through breaks and their children, you don't know how to manage the child care responsibilities. We come and organize the family so that everybody knows the child doesn't suffer and all the parties are involved. Especially recently, the divorce rates are getting higher and higher. We make sure that nobody is left behind. We are advocates. We can be a very good advocate. All right. Make sure that your needs are met. Yeah. Anybody who is destitute, hasn't got money, social worker will organize help for that person. You have immigration issues. Sometimes we deal with it so that those children are not neglected. You know what I mean? We work with immigration and make sure that the support you need, you get a support. Yeah.
Yes.
We deal with children who are not accompanied by their parents. we make sure that we are their parents here. We provide the care for them that they need.
Parents, yes.
Yeah. So so many help you can get from us. So we are blessed when we come to your home. Don't shut the door onto us.
Wonderful.
Our community, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much. We've spent I think about 10 minutes extra, and today is a special day. Again, we're saying special happy birthday to Mr. Asamoah for today, and for also spend allowing us to use some of his time to share knowledge. And that is how passionate social workers are, that even on their birthdays they will come and spend time to educate us. So we thank all of you gentlemen very much for your I would say that wonderful explanations and submissions. So we want to say goodbye to you at this time, and then we'll wrap up with the program. So can we say goodbye to Mr. Asamoah as he goes to enjoy the rest of the day? Goodbye. Bye. And can I say goodbye and thank you very much.
Thank you,
for the wonderful explanation. So goodbye for now, and God bless you. Bye. Okay, all too soon, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be wrapping up. We're bringing our discussions to a close. Once more, we are GASWA, the Ghanaian Social Workers Association, we try to educate. I'm hoping that you've learned something from today's discussions. The comments were a bit managed, yes, a bit managed because, of course, of the nature of the topic that we've discussed, and also and some of the things that have come up. We'll try and organize a part 2, and then we'll be looking at your experiences, and we'll try and answer your questions. So mainly what we'll come and do is that we'll come and assemble a number of social workers, and they will sit there to just answer your questions. So any questions you have about the profession, any question you have about the experience you've had that is social work related, or anything that you want to access, we'll bring them so that at least you will get the opportunity to share your experience, and then we'll be able to help you in that direction. So as we rightly said, that we are in holiday season, and in fact, we should have taken the whole month off, but instead of that, we are bringing the programs fortnightly, for now. So next week, you will not be seeing us, but the following week will come your way again with another topic that is of interest. Please suggest the topics that you want us to, talk about. Send us those questions to our various platforms. We've got the GASWA outreach page. Please subscribe to it, like it, so that anytime we come on live, you get instant notification. Please make sure that you ask your questions also there, and then we'll do well to come and address some of these things. So thank you for listening, and have a good evening. It's your humble servant, Kweku Afram, who's been your host for tonight. And we hope that you've benefited from today's discussion. God bless you, and take care. Goodbye.